Parshas Tazria.
Good evening.
Good evening. Normally Tazria and Mitzorah are together, but this year they're separate because of a leap year. We're going to jump around a little bit. Let's look at the very beginning. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, daber b'nei Yisrael lemor, isha ki Tazria v'yolda zocher. So the Parsha begins that a case where a woman becomes pregnant and gives birth to a child, a male child. So then it says that on the 8th day, b'yom hashmini yimo b'sar oloso. So there's a Gemara in Maseches Nidot. The Gemara says as follows: Sholu Talmidim es Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The Talmidim asked Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Mipnei ma omer Torah milo nishmono. Why did the Torah say milo's on the 8th day? Okay. We'll answer in a moment what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai answered. What would you say the answer is?
Because I heard that the 8th day, that's when the first time he has his ability, the boy, to his blood. How do you call it?
Okay, so one answer you'd give is that there are certain enzymes that the child develops over the first 7 days, that on the 8th day he has a better ability for the blood to heal, to coagulate. So that's a scientific answer. And that's brought down. So that's a good answer. That's not Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's answer, but it's an answer. It's a good answer.
I have an answer that has to go through one Shabbat.
That's a second answer. Also a very good answer. That if the child has a bris milah on the 8th day, he's guaranteed to have lived through one Shabbat, which is significant because the 7 days of the week represent teva, the normal life. 8 is the ma'aleh min teva, above teva. So brit milah is a brit, a covenant between Hashem and the child. So you have to connect heaven and earth. So that doesn't happen in 7 days, but it happens on day 8. Okay, so we have two very, very good answers.
Also, this is in Torah, when Abraham Avinu.
Right, very, very good answers. Torah Tamima talks about that, that's what they talk about. That's not Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's answer. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai gives an unusual answer. He says that normally when a woman gives birth, she can't go to mikveh for 7 days. So why should everybody at the brit be happy? And the husband and wife, the father and mother, they're sad because she still hasn't gone to mikveh. So this way, we delay the bris till the 8th day. Now, that doesn't apply today. Because after childbirth, most women can't go to mikveh for 2 months. It takes quite a while for the body to recuperate and heal itself. The rules of Tarat HaMishpacha are very different than what it was in the days of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So those reasons don't apply today. But Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonenfeld says that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's reason could still apply. Listen to his logic. Very interesting logic. According to halacha, a woman gives birth. For the first 3 days, she's considered misukan, a critical patient. Critical. You're machal Shabbos for her. Make her a cup of coffee if she wants. Turn on the light, turn off the light. Lift the bed, lower the bed. For the first 3 days. From day 4 till day 7, she's also considered misukan, where if she wants something, you do it. You don't have to talk her out of it.
What does mean misukan?
Dangerous. She's critical. As a matter of fact, the Gemara says that in the days of the Chazal, and up to 100 years, it was applicable here in all over the world, that most women died in childbirth. And we know that. Rachel died in childbirth. And even Leah died in childbirth, even though she died a few years later. But it was the effects of childbirth that took a while till it affected her and she cost her life. So in the eyes of the Gemara, Rashi tells us the Gemara, most women died in childbirth. It was a very dangerous time. She only goes out of the category of being critical after day 7 on the 8th day. So that's what Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonenfeld says. For the first 7 days, the father and mother are worried because she just had a traumatic experience. She just gave birth. Only on day 8 does she get out of that traumatic experience. Now you can have the brit milah, because now everybody can be happy. The family can be happy. The children, the parents, everybody can be happy because she's no longer in a critical state. So that's a fascinating answer that he gives, that it affects everybody. Now, there are very few things in the Torah, very few mitzvos in the Torah that are supernatural. There are many miracles in the Torah, but there are very few mitzvos in the Torah that are supernatural. How are you, sir? Let me give you an example of a mitzvah that's supernatural. Sota. A man suspects his wife of having an affair. What does he do? He brings her to the Beit HaMikdash. The Kohen takes a glass, puts some water from the kiyar, puts Hashem's name, mixes it up, gives it to her to drink. If she's innocent, nothing happens. If anything, she'll have children, healthier children. But if she's guilty, what happens? She blows up. That's not natural, right? That's miraculous. Okay? I'll give you another example of a miraculous mitzvah. Egla Arufa. What is Egla Arufa? You find a dead body. And obviously the guy was murdered, but we don't know who the murderer is. So they measure to the closest city. And the elders of that city bring a egel, which is a calf, and they put it next to a rock, a hard rock, and they break its neck. And they say, we testify on ourselves that we are not guilty of this crime. We didn't let this guy go out by himself. We made sure someone walked with him a little bit. We made sure he had food, we had water. This death is not on our hands. But someone killed this man. This man died. Someone killed this man. So the Gemara says that the blood, like all blood, attracts vermin, ants. And all of a sudden there's 1,000 colony of ants, and they start walking, they start waving their way, and they find their way to the man who committed the crime's doorstep. So all they do is they follow the ants. And wherever the ants lead them, at the end of the line, that's the man who committed the murder. Okay? We don't have that. That's supernatural. We don't have that ability today. We have DNA. But that only you need to have the DNA to test the DNA. The third thing that is miraculous, that is beyond the normal scope of things, is tsaras, is leprosy. We're not talking about the disease. The disease is a disease. We're talking about somebody comes out of his house one day, and it's 95 degrees outside, and he's wearing a jacket. He's wearing a long sleeve shirt, a jacket. And he says to his friend, Moshe, where is Aaron the Kohen? And he says, Aaron the Kohen? I don't know where he is. What do you need Aaron the Kohen for? Well, I have some truma to give away. Really? I didn't know you had a field. Where do you have truma? I have some money to give to the Kohen. I want to make a donation. What? How come you're wearing a long sleeve shirt? You know, because I got something over here I don't want anybody to see, you know. That's miraculous. You know, if someone has acne, they don't go to the rabbi. You go to the rabbi and say, Rabbi, I got pimples on my face. What should I do? They say, go see a doctor and go wash your face. You know, you don't go to the rabbi for acne. But for tsaras is an unusual thing. It's a type of a mitzvah that's miraculous. We don't have it today. We don't have Egla Arufa today. We don't have tsaras today. We don't have the mitzvah of Sota today. How could we? These are mitzvahs that rely on miracles. And because they rely on miracles, we can't have it today because we don't live in that open society where we see God's miracles. We live in a hidden society. So we don't have those mitzvahs. But when they did, it was quite fascinating. But it says over and over again, look what it says. Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe v'Aaron lemor. Adam, a person, he has on his skin different types of white blotches. Sometimes it's white like plaster. Sometimes it's white like sheep white. Sometimes it's white like snow. There's different levels of white. And it could be some raw skin inside. There could be some red. There could be some green. So it says, V'ro'o ha-kohen, the Kohen should see him. And then it says again, V'ro'o ha-kohen. Then it says in the next pasuk, V'ro ha-kohen, the Kohen should see him. And then it says, V'nira sheni sel ha-kohen. Then it says, V'ro ha-kohen. And it says over and over again, the Kohen should see him, the Kohen should see him, the Kohen should see him. How many times did I have to tell me the Kohen should see him? So the Meforshim give a very fascinating answer. They say, you know what? When a person comes to the Kohen and says, Rebbe, I have something I want to show you. The Kohen has to look not just at the white spot. It's no longer just about white spots. It's not about red blotches. You have to look at the person. You have to look at the circumstance. It says a few times you have to look. Sometimes when you look one time, you get one impression. But when you look 2 or 3 or 4 times, you get a different impression. I'll give you an example. A person comes to the Kohen and says, Rebbe, I have something I want to show you. He says, hold on. What's going on in your life? He says, what's going on? I just got married. I'm in the middle of Sheva Brachos. I got married Monday night. Now it's Wednesday. And I got something I want to show you. He says, I'm not looking. He says, you don't want to look, Rabbi, I got something already. He says, it will keep. We don't look at a chatan or kala white blotches during Sheva Brachot. Go back home. Go back to the chatan, go back to the kala, we don't look. But the Torah says, I know what the Torah says. You don't have to teach me what the Torah says. There are certain times we don't look. That's one of the times. Now it's interesting. Why would a chatan or a kala have tzarat? What is the gift Hashem gives every chatan and kala? Hashem gives you a wedding gift. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. What's the wedding gift? What's Hashem's wedding gift to every bride and groom?
Give all averot.
What was that? Say it again.
All averot.
What about all your averot?
Cancel all averot.
He forgives all your averot.
Yeah. How come he's getting it again?
Well, first of all, many chatan and kalas, they fast the day of the wedding, and they daven the mincha from Erev Yom Kippur, and Hashem says, I give you a gift. I erase all your averot. So how is it possible 2 days after the wedding, I got a white spot? Hashem just forgave all my averot. So, the Ger Rebbe, his fast emes, I think it was, the Ger Rebbe gives a beautiful answer. He says, listen, my friends, Hashem can only do as much as Yom Kippur can do. What kind of averot does Yom Kippur forgive? Ben Adam Makom, averot between you and God.
Yeah.
But Ben Adam Chavero? No. So Hashem says, you know what? I'll forgive the averot between you and I. You didn't keep Shabbos the way you should have one time. You made Shabbos too late or too early, and you made a mistake, and you turned on the light, you turned off the light, you didn't keep kosher the way you should. I forgive all that. But averot between you and your friends, I can't. How can I come and say, I forgive you on his behalf? I can't do that. So Ras comes from averot between you and God or you and man. You and man. You're stuck, man. You're stuck. Now, what makes matters worse, I can tell you that there's no greater time when people's reputations are trashed and Lashon Hara spoken than when you plan a wedding. Have you ever tried to plan a wedding?
No.
His family, her family, the uncle, that crazy uncle, I'm not going to give him a bracha, he's crazy. And the father, you know what the father wanted? You have no idea. The Gemara says there's not a ketubah she'ein bo tigra that doesn't have a fight to it. One of the biggest brachot is that the wedding should come b'shalom, should be peaceful, because the minute you start talking about the caterer, the hall, the food, the pictures, everybody's ideas are different. And it's very nice when I say his son is getting married, and he's paying for the pictures, and I want 2 cameras and I want 3 videos. That's very nice when he has to pay for it. I could want a lot of things. And since you're paying for the liquor and the flowers, I want flowers at every table, and I want 3 bottles of liquor at every table, right? So we have to have a discussion. One of the hardest things is before 2 children get engaged, you got to sit down and have a discussion. And how many people are you going to invite? Okay, and where's everybody going to stay? You have people coming from out of town, and where are you going to have the Shabbos Sheva brachot? Usually it's by the girls' side. You can understand. So. I'm surprised that more chatan and kalas don't have tzaras. I think they all walk away with leprosy. I think the whole family has leprosy by the time this wedding takes place. So, but it's interesting, right? It's interesting. But the Torah says
but it's temporary.
Right. The Kohen says, "I'm sorry, guys. This week I'm off limits. You're off limits. I'm not looking." Another time the Gemara says is Chol HaMoed. Guy comes during Chol HaMoed, it's Pesach, it's Chol HaMoed, and he comes and says, Rabbi, I got a problem. I know what the Kohen says, my friend, you just want to have a vacation, go back home and do the dishes. But I have a problem. I said, I don't care about your problem. If you go away from your wife during Pesach, you're going to have a bigger problem. Go home. Okay? So there are certain times that the Kohen says, sorry, there's no free, there's no way out.
Is it temporary or it's permanent?
The question is, will it spread? Mm-hmm. It's a barometer. A person has temperature. When you're not feeling well, your body works in perfect sync. You don't feel your eyes or your ears or your stomach or your side unless something is wrong. That's usually a signal. So when you have temperature, it's your body's sending you a message. There's an infection. Now you can take medication, you can cure the infection. This is a message. That's all this is a message. Message is that you're not conducting your life the way you should be. If you get the message and you make the corrections, it will go away.
Even now?
Even now. Well, the question is, what do we have now? There's a big debate what we have now. We don't have this now. Some people say we have other diseases. And it's very easy to say, a person got a disease, they spoke Lashon Hara. We don't know that. We have no way of knowing how the world runs. And what Hashem sends to you, doesn't send to you, what Hashem chooses to take care of or not take care of. So it's a very complicated thing. It no longer has the simplicity of what happened then. Now, there were examples of real leprosy. For example, this week we didn't read the Haftarah for Parshas Tazria, or Metzora next week we might read because it's the special Shabbos, the Shabbos HaChodesh. Mm-hmm. But had we read it, we would have read about Naaman. Naaman was a general from Aram. Very popular general. Everybody liked him. He had one problem. He had leprosy. But the leprosy he had was not the Torah leprosy. He had the disease. And he has this little girl who's Jewish, who he happened to have captured in one of his campaigns. And she says, it very pains me to see my master suffer so much. When I was back home, if someone had the same type of white stuff, they went to the Kohen and the Kohen took care of it. So Naaman says, really? Really? Which Kohen did they go to? Well, she says Elisha, because Elisha was a Kohen. Eliyahu was a Kohen, and Elisha was his student. He was a Kohen. Did you know Elisha was a Kohen? Most people didn't know that Elisha was a Kohen. So Elisha was a Kohen. So he says, Elisha is a Kohen and a Navi, I'm going to go to him. Now, Elisha should have said to the guy, I'm sorry, that's not I don't do that stuff. I don't take care of that stuff. I take care of Torah leprosy. You have real leprosy. You gotta go see a doctor. Mm-hmm. And the Melech Yisrael right away thought it was a setup and it was just an excuse to attack. So Elisha says, you know what? I'm going to take care of this one. Why? I want to prove to you, Yesh Navi b'Yisrael. That was Elisha's favorite line. Every time the king panicked, Elisha said to the king, you know what? You have such little faith. I want to show to you there's a Navi in Israel. What does that mean? A Navi can do miracles. A Navi can change the course of history. A Navi can do things that Tzadi Gozer Hashem Makayim. Send the guy to me. And what did he tell the guy to do?
Go to the Yarden.
Go to the Yarden, take a bath. Dump yourself 7 times. And the guy hit the roof. I should go into your Yarden. Your Yarden is muddy. I have better rivers up north. What? The Jordan River. Why should I go into the Jordan River? And he didn't even go out to see him. Elisha never even went out to greet the guy. He just sent the messenger. He says, oh, by the way, just do this. So he was furious. He turned around in a huff. He said, you're going to pay for this. Finally, on his way back, one of his, advisors said to him, you came all the way here.
Nothing to lose. Yeah.
You got nothing to lose, you don't have a bath or a shower. We've been traveling for days. You could use a bath, you smell. Why don't you just go into the Jordan and try it out? What the heck? And of course he does, and his skin comes back like it's a child's skin, like it's as smooth as a baby. So now he's impressed. Okay, now he has a different opinion of who Elisha is and the type of person Elisha is. And he comes back and he says to Elisha, now Elisha meets him. And he wants to give Elisha gifts and presents. And Elisha says, no, that's not about money. I don't do this for money. And, and he becomes a ger tzedek, a ger tosho. He converts a little bit, It's an interesting story.
He was Jewish? The guy
He wasn't Jewish at the time, but he was going to, and he accepted upon himself many of the rules of Judaism. And then, of course, as he left, and Elisha didn't take any of the gifts, who wanted some of those gifts? Gehazi. Gehazi was Elisha's servant, and he says, my master is a fool. He offered him some clothes, some gold, some silver. If he doesn't want it, I'll take it. And then when Elisha says to Gehazi, where have you been? He says, I've been nowhere. He says, that's not true. I know where you've been. So he says, you know what? The leprosy of Naaman is another gift for you. And he became white as snow. And that leprosy was
from
the real stuff again. It wasn't the Lashon Hara leprosy. Yeah. And it came on him and his children.
Wow.
That was the real leprosy. That's the real McCoy.
Uncurable.
What?
Uncurable.
Uncurable. In those days, they didn't have a cure. And that's why they wrapped themselves up with rags, because the leprosy ate away the skin, and the skin fights disease. So they had to they put material on because it created an outer skin to protect you from infections. So, Elisha was a Navi, he was a Kohen, he was an Oev Shalom and a Rodev Shalom, but he was dealing in tough times. And he knew, he was all black and white, he knew very little gray. There are a lot of stories about his kindness, and there's a lot of stories about when someone crossed the line, he was tough. He was tough. Okay, they bring down a story with Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Now, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was the Rosh Hashiva of Kol Torah. A wonderful, wonderful person. He was taking a taxi cab drive home, and as he got closer to his house, he took out a piece of cake and he ate it. So the taxi cab driver said to him, he said, Rabbi, I don't understand you, he says. It's 6 o'clock. I'm sure your wife has dinner all ready for you when you come home. So why would you eat a piece of cake and spoil your appetite? By right, you should come into the house and you should be hungry and ready to sit down at the table to eat your wife's dinner. Why did you eat a piece of cake? So Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said as follows. He said, listen, he says, you're right. Many times I come home, dinner's ready. But there's some times that dinner is not ready because my wife has to talk to me. She's had a difficult day. And it's very hard to listen to a person talk to you when you're hungry. So I lose patience with my wife. So therefore, I don't eat a lot, but I have a piece of cake. So if I come home and dinner's ready, I sit down and I have dinner. If I come home and dinner's not ready because my wife has to talk, I have the patience because I'm not hungry. Understand? That was a Rosh Hashiva. I mean, they don't say those stories about me, I can tell you that. It's a fascinating story. It's a fascinating story of Ben Adam L'Chaveiro, how a person deals with other people. How a person thinks. They think on a different level. They bring down a story, interesting story also. Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky, brings down a story with Reb Chaim Ozer. Reb Chaim Ozer Grozinski lived at the same time as the Chofetz Chaim. And he was the Posek Hador. He was like the Reb Moshe Feinstein of his generation, or the Reb Ovadia Yosef of his generation. He was the well-known across the world. And a young man comes to him and says, my father was offered a job as a rabbi in a particular city. I would like to get a letter from you on behalf of my father. Now, Reb Chaim Ozer knew the father, and he didn't think he really was qualified for the job. And therefore, he didn't want to write the letter. So he says to the boy, he says, I write letters for things that concern Vilna, because he lived in Vilna. I don't get involved in other communities and other positions. Well, this boy got so angry, he opened the mouth to Reb Chaim Ozer like you can't believe. And the students were shocked, and they thought they were going to kill this kid. And Reb Chaim Ozer said, no, let him go. So they said, Rabbi, why? He says, because he wasn't lashing out at me because of me. He was lashing out of respect to his father. That means he came for a letter on behalf of his father. The fact that I wouldn't write a letter was he felt an insult to his father. So he felt his job was to protect and defend his father. He's wrong, but I understand it. That means I can't criticize a child who stands up for his father, because that's kibbud av. He should have known better, maybe. It was misplaced, I got that. It could have been done differently, I hear you. But at the end of the day, he still was defending his father's respect, his father's honor. And if you defend your father's honor, you have to be able to realize that that's something that's important. So Reb Chaim Ozer looked away. Again, you have to look twice. Every situation seems obvious. A lot of people come to me, and part of what they want is they want to share with me what's going on because they want me to give them perspective. Sometimes I tell them things they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear something, Sometimes they're not interested in hearing it. And it's painful sometimes to hear, but I often tell them what I feel and what I think. In the olden days, maybe years ago, I held back a little bit because, I wanted everybody to love me. When I realized that wasn't going to happen anyway, so I figured I might as well stick with the truth. At least I'll win something. I'll stick with the truth. Listen to this story. I once told you this story. The story is written down in the Harevna by Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. It's an interesting story. He says there were these two women on the bus, and they were talking. Did you hear? Leah just got engaged. What? Leah got engaged? Who would marry that girl Leah? Who would get engaged with that girl Leah? She says, I don't know. The guy must have been desperate. She's a pretty girl. But she can't cook. She can't bake. She has horrible midos. She always gets angry. And they're going back and forth. I really feel bad for that guy. Whoever she's engaged to, he's in for a real shock when he finally marries that girl. And they're trashing this girl. Finally, the lady behind them is a Rebbitzin. She turns to the two girls. She says, I don't know you two girls, but I really owe you a debt of gratitude. They said, why? He says, that lady you're talking about, that's my son she's engaged to. Now that you told me this, I'm going right home now. I'm going to speak to my husband, and we're going to call off this shidduch. We dodged the bullet. Thank you. Well, these two ladies says, no, no, we didn't mean it. No. She says, no, thank you. You were very candid in your comments, and I'm so happy you said what you did. And she gets off the bus, and these two ladies get off the bus at the same time, and they're following her. And she says, why are you following me? She says, no, you can't do it. We were just, it was wrong. It was, this and that. Finally, this lady turned around and said, I don't even have a son. My son's not engaged to this girl. I just wanted you to know what you were saying, how wrong it was. And that is the Lashon Hara the Torah is talking about. And you should take it to heart. Don't ever trash a person like that again. And she walked away. So Rav Simcha Zilberstein brings down this story. It's a fascinating story. If you think about it, the word Pesach, Chazal say, is made of two words. Peh, the mouth, soch. What does soch mean? Speaks, talks. Pesach is all about speaking. Do you know that? You come to the Seder night, and what's the mitzvah that night?
Talk.
To talk. We're there to talk. Pesach is all about speaking. Non-stop talking. And I got news for you. You bring families together, and that's what happens, right? Pesach is families from all over. For my Seder, I have guests coming, but I have my children coming and my grandchildren coming. And when families get together, they love to talk. And they really love to talk about
Family thing.
Other members of the family who are not there, right? I gotta tell you, Pesach is all about talking, but it's all about the right type of talking. How the mouth talks. And when families get together, it's a challenge of Sholem Bayit. And if you think about it, all of Pesach is a lesson in speech. How did we get down to Mitzrayim in the first place? Yosef took us down there. How did Yosef get down there? Because he spoke bad to his father about the brothers. So we got down, Yosef got himself in trouble because he spoke Lashon Hara to his father about the brothers. And then the brothers were jealous and they spoke to each other about Yosef. That means the whole story of Yosef has a common thread. Speech, talking, dangerous. Moshe goes out and says, I can't figure out why the Jews are being enslaved. What happens? One of the says to the other, Dawson says to Aviram or to Moshe, says, are you going to kill me like you killed that Egyptian? Maybe Paro would like to hear about this. So what does Moshe say? Now I understand. I understand. You know why you're here in Egypt? You know why you have back-breaking labor? You know why you're slaves? Because you speak Lashon Hara, because you're willing to give people over to the government, because you do terrible things. Where in your speech? Moshe said right away, now I got it. Yesterday, I was clueless. I couldn't figure it out. What kind of a God does this? Today, God, you're letting them off too easy. Make it harder on them. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu felt. That's how Moshe Rabbeinu felt. Pesach is all about Pesach, the way you talk. It's the whole Seder. It's all about speech. How you speak, the way you speak, how you deal with each other, that's what Pesach is all about. And the more you do it and the way you do it, the better and the more significant it is for all around. Okay, let's talk a few things a little bit over here on the Haggadah. We have about 10 or 15 minutes. I want to share with you some insights on the Haggadah. I once told this to you that Geula seems to come with two letters, Aleph and Mem. It says in the Torah, Im b'chukosai tilechu, if you'll go in my mitzvos, my commandments. So, Aleph and Mem. Also, the word aim, Ima, aim, mother, is Aleph Mem. And we mentioned how Moshe Rabbeinu was born 3 months early because he had to be 3 months in the house of Yocheved. He needed a Jewish mother for those 3 months. It's interesting, if you look at the letters Aleph and Mem, Mitzrayim, who were the heroes in the Egyptian story who took the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim? Aharon Moshe. Aleph and Mem. Okay. Comes next, Persia. Who were the heroes? Esther Mordechai. Aleph and Mem again. Okay. Hanukkah story. You have one of Matisyahu is the Mem, and one of his children is Elazar. So you have Aleph and Mem. Edom. When Mashiach comes, who are the two? Eliyahu Hanavi and Melech HaMashiach. And some people say that Melech HaMashiach is Menachem. Again, Aleph Mem. So it's very, very interesting. It's very, very interesting. I didn't bring it to you. They bring down a medrash that when Chana came to daven for a child, so the Navi had a nevuah that a special child was going to be born. And the child was going to be as great as Moshe and Aaron. And his name is going to be Shmuel. That's what the Medrash says. That year, let's say there were 8,000 Jewish boys born in Israel. Every mother, guess what name they gave the child? Shmuel. They wanted that child, that Shmuel. It's such an interesting Medrash. The Medrash says that year, you think Shmuel was an unusual child. He says everybody was called Shmuel. Every mother wanted that child. And he says, you know why Shmuel was as great as he was? Because every mother wanted a great child. When every mother raises the bar, so of course the bar is higher. It's an amazing thing how they all name that child. Let's say some Navi, we had a Navi today, and some Navi says, Mashiach is going to be born this year, and his name is going to be Menachem, or Mordechai. Let's say Menachem. Every mother who has a child, what's going to name the kid? Menachem. Because he wants that kid to be Mashiach. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating, the power of that a person has that ability, that power. Okay. It talks about the first Seder, one of the Sedorim. Afilu kulonu chachomim, kulonu navonim. So then it says as follows. Maaseh. They bring down a story. Maaseh Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yoshua, Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, and Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the greatest Talmudic minds, greatest rabbis. And they're all getting together, and they're all going to have a Seder in Bnei Brak. Whose house were they at? Rabbi Akiva. Now, why did they all go to Rabbi Akiva's house? That's the question. Rabbi Eliezer was Rabbi Akiva's Rebbe. So if anybody should have gone anywhere, Rabbi Akiva should have gone to his Rebbe. Not that his Rebbe comes to him. Rabbi Yeshua was the Av Bet Din. He was the second in command in the Sanhedrin. Rabbi Gamliel was more important than him. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, he became the Nasi. He was the prince.
18.
He was 18 and he didn't look old enough, so he got gray hair overnight. He looked like he was 70. And of course, there's Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon. So the question comes up, and the Rabbi Chil Michal Epstein in the Leil Shimurim Haggadah asked the question, why did they all go to Rabbi Akiva's house? So he gives a fascinating answer, beautiful answer, and we talked about this over the years. He says that period of time was during the Roman occupation. The Beis HaMikdash had been destroyed.
It was hiding.
And people were hiding, they were living in caves, they were afraid, and everybody was depressed. Nobody smiled. Nobody was happy. Comes Pesach time, so the rabbis get together and say, Pesach is Yom Tov. We're supposed to be happy. Where can we go? Whose house can we go to that we will be happy in? They said Rabbi Akiva. You know why? Because whenever anything happened, they would cry. Rabbi Akiva always laughed. They were walking and they saw a fox come out of the Kodesh Kadoshim. They began to cry. Rabbi Akiva laughed. They said, why are you crying? He says, why are you laughing? Why are you crying? He said, well, we're crying because that was such a holy place that the Kohen Gadol went in once a year. Now a fox runs out? Rabbi Akiva says, okay, but there was a nevuah about that. If that nevuah came true, the nevuah that one day the Beit HaMikdash would be rebuilt will also come true. So he found a way. Sometimes some people see the glass half empty or half full. They saw the glass half empty. He always saw the glass half full. He always had a way of saying Gamzu Latova. No matter what happened, he was always laughing and they were always crying. So they say that when it came time to come for Pesach, you know what they all says? Where are you going for Pesach? Where are you going for Pesach? We're going to Rabbi Akiva's house.
Did he recline because Rabbi was there?
So that's a good question. Did he recline? Normally, you're not allowed to recline when your Rebbe's there. Unless your Rebbe gives Rishus.
But isn't Kavod Enmachol?
And in these cases, probably the Rebbe gave Rishus, and I don't think he reclined either. However, he was the rabbi of the community. So since that was his area, it might have been different. And of course, when the Talmidim came to say it's time to daven Shacharit, they didn't know that because they were in a cave underground. So they didn't know that it was. They didn't see the daylight, so they didn't know. Some people say it was the time of Bar Kochba's rebellion. It says Asher Dorsha ben Zoma. Do you know Ben Zoma had a first name? What was Ben Zoma's first name? Shimon. Ben Azai and Ben Zoma both had first name Shimon. Both of them never got married. Therefore, the Gemara leaves out their first names. Your father had children, but you don't have children.
Why?
Because he never got married. Now, why didn't he get married? I don't know. If it was like Nadav and Avihu, there were no girls worthy of them.
Yes.
But I'm not sure if that's what it is, so I won't say that. We say Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu. We talk about the 4 sons, and we say the word Baruch 4 times. Interesting message. No matter what kind of a child you have, he's blessed.
Yes.
That means a parent says to Hashem, do me a favor, bless my child. My child is a Chacham, he's a Rasha, he's a Tav, Sheina Dei Elishal. It makes no difference. No matter what you say, Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu. That means a child should be blessed. A child should always be looked on as being blessed. The Torah talks about 4 different children. Now, the Chacham, is the Chacham a tzaddik?
Yes,
Doesn't say tzaddik. You see, the opposite of Rasha
Tzaddik.
is tzaddik. But it says Chacham and Rasha. The Rasha can be very smart. So what's the opposite of Rasha is tzaddik. Echad Chacham, the opposite of Chacham is tipesh, fool. So the 4 children, none of them are tzaddikim. And kineged means against. So we all like the Chacham because he's a smart kid. But that doesn't make him a tzaddik. That means what it's trying to tell you is that you have all different types of children. And the Haggadah is not identifying any one of them as being a tzaddik. Because they're children. They're still growing. They still need to be educated. So you have to work with them. You have to educate them. You know, you have to figure out how is the best way to deal with them, because you know right now they're not necessarily a tzaddik yet. Or hopefully they will be, but at this point they're not. Kineged means opposite or against, to redirect the children to a Torah way of life. I told you last week, Chochom Mohu Omer, a Chochom, if you want to know Mohu, what he's really all about, Omer, just let him start talking. You know a lot about a person when they start talking. You know, anybody you meet, talk to them for 5 minutes, you know a lot about them. Because just the way they express themselves, how respectful they are, the language they use, you know a lot. When students of mine from years ago come to see me with their children, and they want to tell me all about their children, I usually say to them, do me a favor, let me spend 2 minutes with your children, I'll know all about you. You know, I don't need more than 2 minutes with a child. I can tell you exactly what the parents are doing right, what the parents are doing wrong. It's an amazing thing. You know, it's just the nature of what it is. So it says over here, Mo Omer. So the Chacham says, you know, Mo Ha'avoda Azos Lochem. That's what the Rasha says, Lochem. The Tzaddik, the Chacham says Eschem. Eschem is very interesting because it has the word emes inside. Aleph, Tov, Chof, Mem. So you have the Aleph, Mem, Tov. Has the whole alphabet in the Chacham's question. The Rasha says Lochem. Lamed, Chof, Mem are 3 letters right next to each other. That means the Rasha uses the same 3 letters right next to each other. He has no past, he has no future. He just has the present. You know, in the eyes of the alphabet, he's very limited in what he can see and what he can do. So therefore, you know, he's very, very restrictive. Of course, we say that if you would have been there, you would not have been redeemed. You probably would have died in Makas Choshech. Even though Nadav and Dosan and Aviro did not die in Makas Choshech, because they believed they would leave Egypt. They didn't not want to leave Egypt. They just felt it wasn't the right time, it was too early. We're supposed to be there 400 years, we've only been there 210 years, we're short 190 years. Moshe says, but it's the right time because Hashem sent me. They didn't believe in Moshe. So they got out of Egypt because they believed in Geulat Mitzrayim. What they didn't believe in was in Moshe Rabbeinu. For whatever the reasons, they didn't believe in Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's what it says. If you would have been there, you would not have been redeemed. He brings down over here some very interesting things, Rabbi Twersky. He talks about, you know, it says, I'm just trying to see which stories to share with you. Rabbi Twersky has some fascinating stories. He says, let silence be my judge. Very interesting. He says there was a particular guy in Shul that whenever he put on a talis, he never spoke. The minute he started davening, shacharit in the morning, he put on his talis, he never spoke until he took the talis off. So someone said to him, why? Why are you so strict that you never speak when you wear a talis? So he says, because after 120 years, when I go up to Shemayim, I found a foolproof way that I'll be able to go straight into Gan Eden. He says, how? He says, well, what happens? When you go up to Shemayim, what happens? There's a judgment. And the angels come and they accuse you of certain things. And Hashem says to you, answer him. But when I'm buried, what am I buried with? The talis. So I'm not going to answer. So Hashem says, you know, we can't have a case if you don't answer. You know, you have to answer. So the guy will say, but whenever I wear a talis, I don't answer. He says, is that how you conducted yourself on earth? He says, yeah, well, that's the way you conduct yourself. So if there's no answer, because I'm not allowed to answer, so you go straight into Gan Eden, he says. So he says, let silence be my judge. I have a way to escape punishment. When I'm buried in a talis, the tribunal cannot judge me. Because since I'll be wearing my talis, and it was my practice in my lifetime not to speak, so therefore it will never be able to do that. So, you know, it's what it is. Very, very interesting that he talks about that. So I found that to be extremely, extremely interesting. One of the stories from Rabbi Twersky that he brings down in his Haggadah that he wrote. He has many other stories as well. He talks about that Lavan, Bikesh Lavan La'akor Sakol. Lavan was so cruel, he wanted to, some people say, kill Yaakov. He was the one who informed Esau that Yaakov was coming back. He tried to destroy everything by making Yosef not the firstborn, by giving Leah over Rachel. There were many things that Lavan did that were very tricky and very conniving. Now, even though the purpose of the Haggadah is not to talk to how bad Lavan was and how great Paro was, it's trying to tell you that they were both very much instrumental in trying to destroy the Jewish people, and that in every generation there are those who try to destroy us, and the only way that we can get around it, of course, is through our emunah bitochon. Some people say that's why we pick up the glass of wine, because the fact that we don't drink with non-Jewish people, so we don't socialize with them, that keeps us separate, and that keeps us distinct in whatever goes on over there. Okay, we'll call it a night. Next week, I hope to be here, but you should confirm, because my daughter's going down to Florida with the grandchildren, and she may need someone to help her. So I may need to help her. I'm undecided yet. So I'll have to let you know. Have a good night, everybody. Yeah.